With so many superhero shows and films out there nowadays, it's quite natural to want to see something that is quite a bit different. And luckily, there are many things out there that fit exactly that description. Today we're talking about the Umbrella Academy. Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to another review video. Now, I recently covered The Boys, which is also a very different take on the superhero stuff, although it, generally speaking, sticks more to the traditional storylines, I'll say, kinda. Parodies them and satirises them, but still more or less traditional. And here we have the Umbrella Academy, which is a show that is distributed by Netflix. So yes, we're talking about yet another Netflix show. Look, they just have a lot of programming that I like, okay? That's just the way it is. I just mentioned The Boys there from Amazon, so I don't just stick to Netflix. But I've been wanting to talk about the Umbrella Academy for quite some time, and just like, I don't know, 2 months ago, I think it was, the third season came out, so I thought, yeah, this is a good time to actually do that. Now, the Umbrella Academy is actually quite interesting. It's based on an actual comic, a graphic novel, which I haven't read yet, so disclaimer in case you are a fan of the written and drawn work related to the Umbrella Academy. Unfortunately, I have not seen and read that yet, but it is on my list, so I definitely plan to get around to it at some point. I also did with The Boys. I finished that, reading that quite recently. So I also want to do that because I just really like the Umbrella Academy, and somehow I've got this feeling that I think that the comics are probably quite a bit different. But that being said, I like the show anyway. Now, if you're a music fan, I suppose an interesting factoid related to the Umbrella Academy is that the person who wrote it is actually the lead vocalist of My Chemical Romance, which is obviously a very well-known band. When I read that, I'm not a fan of the music, but I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's great to see artists branching out and doing something vastly, very different to what you're used to seeing from them. And I really like the setup of the Umbrella Academy. So just to give you a quick rundown of the plot, we are focused on a family. The name is Hargreeves, and there was an incident in the 80s where on one single day, a bunch of women across the world in various ages, etc., just suddenly in an instant became pregnant and gave birth to a child. Sounds very crazy, but we're introduced to this concept right at the start of the first episode. And you have this one person, his name is Sir Reginald Hargreeves. He's a really eccentric billionaire. Well, I don't know billionaire, but anyways, he's someone with a lot of money. And he goes around the world and buys as many of these babies as he can, because he knows somehow that they are very special. I mean, of course, if they were, they just started appearing within one day and were born immediately, of course there's something different about them. And so he collects them and he trains them up. He discovers they do in fact have superpowers. Each one of the 7 siblings that he has have different superpowers, and he trains them to be a team to fight crime and save the world. Now, that is generally how the whole thing began, but the show itself actually starts, let's say, about 2 decades later. So all these children are now adults, they're all grown up, and they've all gone their own ways, because their whole life was this upbringing of, you know, focused on just the crime fighting, developing their superpowers. Reginald Hargreeves himself, very cold towards his children, so there wasn't a lot of love there. It was all just focused on the mission and improving them and all these kind of things. So, you know, very disjointed relationship there between him and all of the kids. That really didn't work out. As you can imagine, a lot of these kids actually vanished. You know, they went I mean, by vanished, I mean they left the family. They went somewhere else. One of them actually even disappeared completely because he was, well, experimenting too much with his powers. I won't spoil exactly how. You'll find that out pretty soon in the show anyway. It's all in the first episode, really, all that I'm telling you, more or less. And there's an event that brings them all back together again. So they've been scattered to the wind for who knows how many years, and there's one event that brings them all back together again. And that is what we see throughout the show. So they're all back together again and what they get up to. And basically, you find this out in the first episode as well. One of the goals that they have, now that they're back together again, is to stop the apocalypse from happening. They've only got like 10 days to do so. and you know, they have different levels of success in the approach to trying to stop this apocalypse. That's all I'll tell you about the actual plot itself. There's a lot more going on. You've got a lot of subplots, as you can imagine. You know, we've got many different siblings, so they all have different relationships with each other, with the father, of course. Then you have their powers. They're all individual. They're all different. What I like about them is they're not all of them typical superpowers. So that is one thing I really appreciate about modern superhero media. We get a lot of unusual powers, so it's not just the classical, you know, you can fly or you're just very strong and all this and that. You have one of the brothers who is very, very strong, but a lot of the others feel very, very unique, you know, so, and I enjoy that quite a lot. Also, that gives you a lot of interesting new scenarios that you can create when you do have conflict and battles happening. What is great about this show, one thing I really like, is just the whole dynamic between all the siblings, because they have varying degrees of liking each other, you know. Everyone likes some a bit more than others, and just all their interactions. It's quite interesting because, especially with the most recent one, the third series, I focused a bit more on their dialogue, and I kind of noticed, and well, at least this is my opinion, I kind of thought that the dialogue itself, as in, you know, the level of it isn't high, the dialogue. We're not talking about, you know, Lord of the Rings level dialogue here happening between characters. It's very, very basic, but it just works. It fits the whole situation so well, and the dynamic between all these siblings, because it's just funny to watch them just, you know, being in the most obvious situations where they have to work together, and there's always someone who sabotages it or gets in the way, or is like, nah, I'm not having any of it, I'm off, you know. And it's just so fun to see all their interactions. Now, I like all of them actually. They've all got their own qualities. The actors behind them are all good. They're all really good. I enjoy the whole cast. I think it's great. I do have two standouts though, I must say. One of them is Robert Sheehan. He plays Klaus, which is number 4. They're all given numbers, by the way, so you can tell, you know, when your father only addresses you by number, you know, there's not too much love there. But Klaus, he's got this ability, he can communicate with the dead, which is obviously very, very creepy. Special superpower to have. But it's just him as a whole. I just love the actor, and he's just got this whole wacky, laid-back, hippie energy, and it's just wonderful to watch on screen, especially because he winds a lot of people up, just because of the way he is. Now, I've loved the actor ever since I've seen him in Misfits, which is quite a callback if you have seen this 2009, 2010, something like that, series. It's a British series about young people who get, again, very unusual superpowers as well. It's very, very low budget and small compared to obviously nowadays with MCU and stuff, but it's a really brilliant series. So if you're looking for something very unusual in the superhero bit, get to see Misfits. It's a British series. And here again, he's in an unusual thing, and I just love him. I think he's the best. The second one is Aidan Gallagher. He plays 5, and the interesting thing about him is he is the youngest actor out of all of them. Now, this is a slight spoiler. He is stuck in a 13-year-old body. The least I can do is not tell you how that happens, because that is, you find out in the first episode anyway. But he, and compared to all the others who are, you know, in their mid to late 20s, he is in the 13-year-old boy's body, and the actor is just phenomenal. You know, that from the start, Aidan Gallagher feels like someone, he's supposed to be older, of course, because his mind is older, you know, but he's still absolutely in this body of a 13-year-old, but he never feels like a 13-year-old, and the acting is just amazing. So you always feel like you're talking to someone who is actually the age he is mentally. And it's the best acting performance out of all of them. So Aidan Gallagher, I'm really excited to see what he does in the future, because he's really, throughout all 3 series, a great actor. But the whole cast has got great chemistry, so whether they're arguing with each other or you have a moment, you know, where they're comforting each other, whatever, it all works so well, and it's down to the actors, of course, and the writing. You know, the whole thing is about the dynamic. So it's not a typical superhero show. There's not that much superheroing, so it's not like every episode has got them out, you know, saving people and big battles and all this. Absolutely not. It's more of a character piece, actually. It's just that you've got these superpowers thrown in. And I like the whole dynamic of it. Music is a great element of this show. It's used so well. I would imagine, hope, I don't know, that probably if you're the creator of the comic is, you know, in the music business himself, I would like to think that it was probably his influence, maybe, I don't know. Not exactly musically, but just, you know, that it was important to them, obviously, that the music fit everything really well, scenes and emotions and all that, and I really like it. So you've got a huge dynamic range of songs used, but it's always done really, really well. The effects I feel are really, really good. You have one member of the family who is actually an ape, and I was really stunned the first time I saw the first series. You know, just the quality of CGI, really, really good. I enjoyed that quite a lot. The interesting thing about all three series, we don't move many places, especially in the third one. We're stuck more or less in a hotel most of the time. So I would kind of appreciate probably having more locations that they use and show. And the second series, the first time round, I wasn't too big a fan of. The second time I liked it a whole lot more. I won't explain exactly why, I'm just saying, just the setting of it just wasn't really my kind of thing, but I liked it a lot more the second time around. And yeah, lovely quirky stories. They've announced that they're just going to have one more season. I think that's fine. I think that'll give them enough room to wrap it all up, and it probably would be difficult. At least, I don't know what the comic storyline is, but at least the Netflix show, I do feel that that should be the end of it, because it is, in certain ways, without spoiling it, it is get a bit repetitive from season to season. There's certain elements that repeat over and over again. They still manage to pull it off without getting, you know, too repetitive, at least not too noticeable. And I do hope that they'll be able to resolve it all in the fourth one, so that we feel that we actually have a good ending, especially for all these characters, which you know, you really grow to like over these seasons. Again, down to the great characters and actors. So if you want to see a quirky superhero show with interesting powers and this family dynamic, I would imagine if you're a person with multiple siblings, this is probably perfect for you. I only have one brother, so it's not, you know, I can't quite emphasize this much with having all these different people to deal with under one roof. But yes, so if you're bored of the typical Marvel, DC superhero things, want to like the superhero things nonetheless, you know, want to see something maybe a bit different, check out The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. It's definitely a high recommendation for me, one of the more unique superhero shows out there. That'll be all from me today. I'll thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about The Umbrella Academy, particularly if you've read the comic, the graphic novel, and you know, comparisons there, recommendations. I am going to read it, so but still, if you like it and recommend it, that would also be nice to know, of course. Anything else you want to say, please down in the comments below. I'll thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.